Well, thank you, Samantha, for taking some time out of your day today. How are you? How's things? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, really. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me. Yeah, super exciting, super nervous. As I said to you just before we started recording, we just had a bit of a unofficial party last night. I got to meet some people I've been apparently working with for a while. So that was nice.
Who did you get to meet? Were there actors? Were there devs? Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, so there was a lot of well, two of Halson and Gail have never met, right? And they've been doing this for like 4 years. They've never met, they've never crossed paths in the studio. So that was interesting. We had one director had never met Jahira before. There were some TAVs, I think, that I haven't met. There was mocap engineers, sound engineers who I have met.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a lot of people from Pit Stop in London who've been recording all this stuff.
When was your last session?
June.
Yeah, right. And is that pickup stuff or is that is that is that pickup stuff or is that heavy dialogue stuff or what are we talking here?
By the end, I mean, you got to think once we've done it, the poor animators got to get onto it as well. So at one point we just abandoned mocap and it was in party
Yeah.
banter sort of stuff. But I think it's worth saying that as far as I'm aware, my character was the last to be written. So I did like the speed run version of what everyone else has been doing for like 3 or 4 years.
Also, Karlach was the last one written out of all the companions, everyone.
That's what I was told.
Wow.
Now I know that there was a version of her in EA, and then they completely changed the model and what they wanted to do with her and everything. And I came in quite late, and then that had to be play tested and came back, and they went, "She's a bit of an edge lord, like literally everyone else in this game. Let's make her a bit different." And anyone that's played it knows she's pretty different to the rest of them, even though she has one of the darkest backstories. But I feel it's not a competition, but
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it was just one of those things where we had to just experiment while this stuff is being made. And there's
Well,
rewrites, everything play tested, but no, we're not getting in the room together to have a sort of chemistry check like you would film, TV, theatre, audio. We're actually like, it's having to be made and then it comes back and you just
what
hope you get
what
it
year was that,
right.
by the way, Samantha? What year was that
Sorry?
when you started?
It was the year of our Lord 2022 in December,
Wow.
mid-December. I
Wow.
came in.
Are you
So I did.
serious? That's
So what
crazy.
I'll say is, as far as I know, in terms of hours in the studio, because there's always suiting up and getting ready and calibrating as well. In the studio, I did about 240 hours in total. Yeah, I did a lot in 6 months.
That's more
Yeah.
than the Grand Theft Auto guys.
Well, it's a big game.
Oh well, it's a
It's a
big game.
big
I
game.
think that's an understatement calling this game big. I think you need
Big,
to go
yeah,
ginormous.
massive, huge. Yes, yeah. No, absolutely. So I mean, in passing again, talking to the others who haven't been counting their sessions, who've been doing this for years, I got the feeling that I'd made the same amount of effort as the rest. It's just that I had to just get on with it.
So how's your week's been since then? It must have been a whirlwind for you.
Yeah, and I had a full-time job, so that was interesting. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but that's all done, and I'm happily unemployed for the first time in a couple of years. I had a full-time like 9 to 5 day job for the last couple of years, and I was like, no, this is all too good to be true, right? So they ask you in for 10 sessions and it's another 20, then it's another 20, and you're going, hang on, this is a lead role, isn't it? Like maybe I want to give up that day job. And in the times of that we've just been through the pandemic, it's just that bit of job security that you want. So it was just I clung on to it for probably a little bit longer than I should have done, but I'm here, I've survived. But to answer your question, I'm willfully unemployed and I'm
So
enjoying that.
you would go to the mocap in the middle of the day and then come home and work, or what? What are we talking
I
here?
do a 9 to 5 and then I get on the train and do 4 hours and it would be nighttime. And I would what I liked about it though is I had the opportunity to eat with the crew. I got to
Oh
know
yeah.
the crew in a way that you don't normally do. You're a freelancer, you come in, you do your job, you go home. I think it's really important to give them props and a shout out, because I go in as a director, a movement director, a mocap engineer, and a sound engineer, and the five of us would work together into the night, and we'd have a nice meal break at the end, and actually get to know each other outside of this. So yeah, it takes a village.
Wow. So you're
And
working most like 5 to 9 most days.
yeah, 9 to 5. Yeah, just a normal like office job I was doing from
Yeah, 9
home.
to, yeah. Sorry.
In
Yeah.
like IT as well. So it was, sit in front of a computer for 8 hours a day. And then it was just go and play in the evening, and it was really joyful actually. And I felt I had more energy actually, weirdly, doing
So
that.
during
Funny
the
enough,
day,
doing the thing I love.
you're kind of looking forward to that. Yeah.
just just a bit going, oh look, this is like meaningful. People will enjoy this. And it brings, some pleasure to the world. So that's good. That's always a good thing.
Good on you.
Yeah, so in the last
Congratulations.
month, yeah, thank you. In the last month, I knocked that on the head, and I was able to commit like full time and see people in daylight. They saw me in daylight. That was good. She saw more people as well, and I bumped into more of the cast and yeah, other directors and sound engineers and folks that I hadn't worked with yet. And I think I got through most people by the end.
So you've done so many games, but when did you first get into the world of voice acting or in the gaming world? I'm thinking like when was that?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, because I always think, oh, it took off during the pandemic because I had a home studio. But I started doing the old school thing, right? So what you do when you've been theatre trained is you're told, you knock on doors, and they're casting directors, they remember you. Do an audition for one thing, they'll remember you. But there's no real gatekeepers in games. It didn't quite work like that yet. But what did work was, like, back in 2014, I did a game called Age of Wonders 3, and that was through knocking on doors. That was just being annoying and saying, here's a reel. I bet you don't get many of these. And I just got really lucky on that. But that was absolutely exhausting, to be quite honest with you. I did another little indie game, and then it was that was Nenny Cootalot, and then it was like really took off 2020, and I was doing emotes and stuff back then. That was Demon's Souls and a couple of lines in Ace Attorney, and then I was getting into the studios finally, because it's that trust thing as well. Just because I was doing audio doesn't mean that I know anything about games. I disagree with that, but there's trust, and there's a load of people they work with, so it's very hard to make that impression. But I had a home studio, and that seemed to work that out. I did Total War screaming at home. I think the neighbors are so used to it now, like they wouldn't come if my partner was murdering me, which is a bit worrying. But we would tell them, like, if I'm screaming under a blanket, it's like, it's normal. This is what I do.
Man, so your voice booth at home, what are we looking at here? Because I've heard different iterations. One's in a closet, one's under a blanket.
Yeah.
What have you got going on?
So my partner's a musician and become his own sound engineer, has produced his own albums and stuff. So he's got the equipment.
You got the cheat sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been hanging around for years trying to get into film, TV, and then finally, when everything went to shit, here I am ready with the home studio. It's happening. It's taken like 15 years. Let's do it. So we've got like a portable baffle thing. That makes sense. Yeah. So it's its own sort of closet. And then he's got a nice AKG mic. He's got a really nice setup. Yeah, it's the good shit.
Good shit.
Yeah, and that's how I made Hobbs Barrow, was just that little baffle and that. And
man, that game is really awesome for what I've seen. Congratulations on that, because that rests on your shoulders, that game. Really. I mean, it's a really great developer and great story, and we know, but you've got to pull that off as well.
Yeah. And the great thing about the indie game scene is that you get the complete script beforehand. So I wasn't winging it. I wasn't, okay, so there were some puzzles and that, and I couldn't see what was going on, and that had to be explained. But I just did the old, stage trick, going for who am I, where am I, what do I want? And to be honest, like, the secret to me for all that is, what do other people say about me? Because there's who Thomasina thinks she is. She's so privileged. She has no idea how she comes across. So seeing how other people were really wound up by her and rubbed up the wrong way, I just really went to town on that one, The only thing was that we talked about was the accent, because, if she was too sort of plummy, then you're going to lose a lot of the audience, because you're asking them to be sympathetic to her. And she's traipsing around just saying, this is mine. This is mine.
It's interesting you say that. You're right. You might lose a bit of the audience if it goes too highbrow, the voice. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think like for you as an Australian, I think for the UK, that accent is the voice of the oppressor for a lot of people, and she is within the piece. She's just nicking stuff and taking it home. She's not even displaying it in a museum. She's just going to have it. And then you've got maybe Americans who don't get that so much because they have a different relationship with colonialism, and so they would have been fine if she was. They would have gone with her. But I was just thinking about, I thought this was just a little small game that a few people in the UK would play, but we have got, we are up north, and there is that north-south divide, and there is that class divide. And I just love it. All that is juicy. I just love all that stuff. You really, like, if I can get hold of that entire script, if I can have a meeting with the writer, that's it done, and that costs them less money because I'm not asking dumb questions in the studio. That's always a good start. Like, okay, so you can't tell me what the game is called. What sort of world are we in? That's where you have to start. Or like you get a bit of art for like 2 seconds, and like that's go and go. And so as a lead character, a lot of pressure to keep that going, to keep that relatable and likable, as well as being a very strong character. And I think that's what, the writing was fantastic, and I just let into it, but she's a very strongly written character. And so I just went to town with all the privilege that she has. Had fun.
Going back to gaming, what were you familiar with the gaming world? Like, did you play games growing up? Did you, I'm just curious on your background of how much you knew about this world.
Yeah, so there were a lot of like older boys. My brother was an older boy, and my best friend's brother was an older boy. So I inherited old computers. So my first was an Amstrad CPC 464 with a green screen. And I don't know if that means anything to you, but that's old. And I was playing with BASIC.
That's fucking old. No, excuse my
language.
So
I couldn't get anywhere near a Sega Mega Drive because my friend's brother was holding on to that. I wasn't going to get anywhere near.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford a console. I couldn't make the case for a console as a young child. So
you couldn't convince Santa.
I could not convince Santa. He didn't think it was a worthy thing that would ever make any money or anything. So we didn't do that. But absolute bastard. We've had words since, but I think the first console I owned was a PlayStation 1. And the first thing that made an impression on me as an actor was, I'm really thinking about it, it was Ezio Auditore. I just thought I was watching a Shakespeare here. This is a fully formed character. That first entrance where he comes in, and he has that wonderful sequence of just being a badass, and then starts a fight, and you go, oh, bless you. And he's there, and you want to play him, and he's exciting, and he isn't a blank slate.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one was Jennifer Hale's Shep. I think for a lot of people, that's good, just to see what could be done with that sort of more blanker slate where she's got to cover all sorts of choices to be made. I thought those two were really stuck out, but that was a little bit later on. I just like playing games. I just thought they appeared out of nowhere. I didn't know people made.
Are you British, Irish, and Jamaican heritage? Give me the background.
Yeah. So my late father was Irish. My mother's Jamaican. They came to the motherland back in the day, and they met. I was made, and we're all in London, and that's that. And yeah.
So what side of, like, for cuisine, you love your Jamaican food, you love your British food, where do you land?
I'll eat anything. That's the thing. I'm more like a bear. I'm an omnivore. I'll try anything. Like I'll
really? Would you try kangaroo down here in Australia?
I think I'd have to.
Yeah,
I'd have to win the favor of the people. Like very publicly.
You don't need to do that to win the favor.
No, I have to do it at immigration.
No.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I haven't even tried it personally. I'm
but that kind of makes you more Australian.
Yeah,
because I don't have, it's like me not going to the Tower of London because I'm from here, right? I take it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So how was it growing up? Did you always know you wanted to be in theater, in acting, and that sort of thing? Because I know you did theater for a long time when you were younger, right?
Yeah. So I knew I loved my stories. I love stories. And it was only when I was at university studying literature that I took a Shakespeare module, and I went to see a shit ton of Shakespeare in London, with all the world-class Shakespearean actors, and it made me feel things on a level that I didn't feel reading, and that just started to get me interested into exploring that way of expressing myself and telling stories. I mean, I've been exposed to it as a kid. At weekends I'd go to not stage scored. As I was about to say stage scored, it wasn't. It was really you pay to go. It was informal, like an hour of dance, an hour of singing, an hour of acting. And acting was the elusive one. Acting was the elusive because I couldn't see how it was done. Like, felt like you either make that kick or you hit that note. But with acting, I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. So I was much older, which was probably good because then I wasn't a precocious theatre kid. I'm a precocious adult instead.
What's your favourite theatre show or play you've been to or done? I'm curious. Or a couple of favourites if you can't nail it down.
I love anything by Sondheim, actually. Sondheim is like the Shakespeare musical theatre. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Company's quite a famous one. And
yeah, Company, yep.
Assassins, which is wonderfully. It's all about all the people who've tried to assassinate presidents, and he's made a musical.
Oh wow,
like they meet in this liminal space. Oh, it's so out there, and every time, like, you know, it just blows my mind how smart it is. Like, you know, I go away and I come. It's like what, like I love Blade Runner, right? But I don't watch it every year. I wait a while and then I come back to it fresh with the person I am now. And I interpret that in a different way. It's a film, you know, and I feel the same way about Stephen Sondheim. So I'm going to put just him as a, because I'm not going to say Shakespeare. Everyone says Shakespeare. I'll do contemporary Shakespeare, musical theatre Shakespeare. And every play he's done, every musical theatre play he's done is completely different in terms of genre and stuff like that. His breadth is incredible. Favorite play I did, I think, was a play called Silence by Moira Buffini. And she was commissioned in 2000 to do a play about the millennium, but she picked a different millennium, which was 999. She set a play there, and it involved like really the expulsion of the Vikings by the South. There was this north-south divide, and we had King Ethelred. He was in
there. Who did you play?
I played Silence. I was Silence. I was the lead role, and Silence is a young prince he's been, you know, he's got to make a treaty with the stronger power in the South. And he's married off rather conveniently to this French queen, who's a bit of a problem for England, and discovers on his wedding night that he's a girl, that he's been brought up as a boy, and she's like, you've got breasts, Silence, you are a girl. And that's sort of when the play kicks off, because then what, you know, he has all this power afforded to him. Like, I think he figures out that, yeah, if he had been brought up a girl, he wouldn't have inherited all this. And that how he's
really
going to keep himself up. And it's a bit of a like medieval road trip as well. Like, there's all sorts of shit going on. It was really good fun. Moira Buffini play. She wrote The Queen, I think. Like, she's well known now, but that was an early play for her. So I loved doing that. It was so much fun.
Well, I sound stupid now. My favorite school of rock. So, you know,
that's allowed.
Basic, you know.
No. I'm not gonna, like, I don't care. I love it.
I just love it, you know. I love
what
Jack
moves
Black.
you, isn't it? I mean, that's what I was saying about like being moved. And it's sometimes you can't really explain it. And sometimes that movement is just joy. You're allowed to have joy. We need it right now, right? You know, and I think if nothing else, the last couple of years has really cemented the idea of, you know, the role of the entertainer in society.
Oh, I've been gravitating towards those sort of things lately because, maybe it is because of that COVID period, I think. Yeah.
I know there were a lot. Oh God, when it started, and every bloody actor was making a home stage play about COVID. It's like, yes, I know. I'm also at home and miserable. And I found myself watching more fun, you know, fantasy and sci-fi in that time, just to like escape that. I wanted all that sort of thing.
Well, you mentioned Blade Runner. I wish they'd make a Blade Runner game. They haven't done it, like a big, like sort of RPG, big sort of spiraling, massive game.
No, I'm sure there was a text game though. You're going to get comments for this.
Yeah, there's games, but I mean, like, I'm talking like a Baldur's Gate sort of big AAA game, you know?
I'll text Larian.
That's the next one.
Now you're doing nothing. Now you got nothing to do. Here's an idea. Because I know you've been itching for something. Yeah.
What would they like to work with? I'm curious, because I know you said, you know, 14-year-old me would be overwhelmed right now. I think you tweeted out, basically looking at the cover. I think your character was on there, was it? Or
PC gamer.
Yeah, PC gamer. That's
such
crazy.
a nerd.
No,
yeah, you go crazy. Like, you know, You buy Tomb Raider, right? You play Tomb Raider, you buy PC Gamer, read the massive review, and you go, yeah, I spent my money wisely. This is a good one. And I just had that relationship in a way that you'd have with like Melody Maker or the NME back in the day. That print media is what I'm trying to say. Is something that obviously has fallen off in recent years. So the fact that they're still printing, it's absolutely, that made me so happy.
Yeah. But you must be super excited and just kind of nervous because we're recording this as it's coming out, but I mean, people are loving this character.
Yeah, they are. I thought I'll wait a month, see if people have put something up there. People are on Act 2. The game's been out, what, 4 days or something? People are like, just get through that bloody story. Get to the end. Come on. So, fair play to you. So, yeah, everything's always going to be a spoiler. I've been thinking about, oh, well, if this is out of the bag. But, like, people, it's going to be Xbox people. This is going to be out before this is on Xbox. So, yeah, Karlach has captured the imagination of the player, I think, and I think she benefits from being new. I think that's fair to say. The others, like, we've known for years and years, and she's just come in off the old Harley. I said, all right, lads, just turned up, and very different from early access, and she's good aligned. She's not an edgelord, although she has a really dark background. Yeah, she's not just like happy-go-lucky. There's a little bit more behind the scenes.
What did they tell you about the backstory? I'm curious.
So it's been a bit of a journey, actually, considering I started playing her like 7 months ago. It's been a longer journey than that, and I auditioned for her back in 2020 without knowing it. I've gone back to my notes and had a look, and she was very different. She was a very different character. She's more of a ranger fighter, a much lighter character, like physically. Right. And I don't know where that is in terms of EA, but anyway, I was auditioning for that, and they gave me like 3 or 4 different scenes, so at least I was able to build up a picture of her. I think she'd always escaped the hells. That was always in her, but they didn't say 10 years. They didn't say sold into slavery. It wasn't as dark as that. But when I came to it, I auditioned again like November last year. It was interesting to see how she had changed, but the backstory was that she'd been sold into hell, and she's got an overworking engine for a heart, and she's got there's a time pressure to find some relief for that as well. But meanwhile, she's happy to be alive. So she's the ultimate Zen master. Like, she's like, I am in this moment, and I'm going to enjoy this moment, as long unless I'm kicking someone's head in and then I'm raging. But we're gonna have a nice time. But you've met people like that. You're just real hard asses, right? And they're gentle giants, and they're lovely, and you think, I'm not going to get on the wrong side of you. I think that's her. You play nice in that, and she'll be okay. She's very straight and very relatable, and chaotic good is what I sort of gravitate towards anyway. So,
how many romance scenes are there that you remember? Because I've seen heaps already, and I love the dialogue. God, it's funny. I tell you what, some of it, but it's brilliantly written. And you're trying to kiss her, and she's like, "I'm going to burn your fucking lips off. You better watch."
And some people are like, "I'm down for that." And you know what? This is the spoiler. Some people are like, I tried throwing ice at her, but it just killed her. Yeah, you did like a freezing spell on Karlach, and you murdered her for love. Or like, people are like, I'm not sure you can die kissing her, but I think they missed a trick there if you can't.
Oh man, yeah. How many? Is that the only one? I mean, is there more than that? What are we talking about here?
You've seen the dates, because that was on Panel from Hell.
Yeah.
She's a little bit frustrated. She's ready to go. I mean, it's interesting, because I don't know how much is a different tree, or if it's a retake or what, but we had lots of different versions of like how she felt about the enforced celibacy. And there was this whole thing of like, back in the day I used to get about, and I've never been on a date, and I'm not very well, we could die tomorrow, so let's go. There's that version, and then there's the version of she didn't have a one-nighter with the character on the first night, They're not in a polyamorous thing, which you can totally do. Like there's all I don't know. And I mean, the good thing is it doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, for me, it's like parallel universes. I'm not counting them up. I would be interested though. I'd be interested to see if you can like have an ongoing romantic relationship with any of these characters, or if they're just you know, one-off cinematic scenes. I don't know. I'm sure that video is being compiled as we speak.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. A couple of my friends are on it. The how many different endings are there for that character? How does that work? I mean, is there one continuous story that is the definitive ending? I'm just curious because I've never played the other Baldur's Gate games before. So I'm new to the franchise as well. I'm about 15 hours in at the moment, but
I see.
Yeah.
So Larian have said 17,000 endings. I'm not quite sure how that works. I think personally I've got 5 distinct endings. Before you talk about whether I'm in a relationship with the character, whether we're friends, whether I hate the character, like, and remember then that you've got all the other origins who might be in the team or hirelings, and you've got their endings as well. So I think you start doing some 4D chess there and you've got a lot of endings. But
right. Yep.
It's not save or don't save, put it that way. It's they have really thought it through. It isn't a color-coded ending. Yeah. If that's what you're worried about, like, because I was, and I know what I'm referencing, and I hope you do. But yeah. It's not one ending done. You know, it really isn't. It really does matter your choices. I think it's as close as you can get to a true D&D experience, while also not spiraling out of narrative. You know.
Were you familiar with D&D? Had you ever played it before?
Funnily enough, I started playing in the year 2019.
Yeah.
So that was shut down pretty quick. But
yeah, that's tough.
I'm lucky being in London that there's a meetup. It's a one-shot meetup. It's really smart. The idea is you go to the tavern and you pick up work. You're a mercenary. So you do one-shots with a DM for 3 hours and that's it. And then some of them meet up at the weekends and they'll do a longer campaign. And that was funny because I played as a Dragonborn barbarian because I didn't want to think about the mechanics. I just wanted to get into the story. Like you do, like the magic, you gotta know. Like you're talking about spell slots and long rests. Yeah. And I didn't care. And then the second playthrough, I played as a tiefling warlock. So I sort of covered Karlach between those two characters. So I felt like I think playing games and playing D&D really did help me deal with the fact that there are many permutations of the same thing. Because you can imagine a session you might do a scene, and then a couple months down the line that one comes back with some new endings, and it is not for you to question if that's a retake or whatever. You just got to go, okay, where does this fit in, and hope that everyone remembers where they were.
I noticed you made a Twitch channel. Are you thinking about possibly streaming this game in the future?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I mean, it's quite a setup, isn't it? It's not just, and I'm on a Mac and I'm on a PS5, so that's not going to happen anytime soon.
So you've realised what it takes,
what is to come. No, I'd have done it with the Thomasina as well for Hobbs Barrow. Like, absolutely, just hearing a voice actor talk over their own character, I just find hilarious anyway. But I was thinking of maybe playing as Karlach and giving you what I thought was going on.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. As well as
being incredibly sarcastic and rude all the way through. I thought that might be something people want to watch.
That'd be sick. You need to do that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things like we're thinking about, like as a cast, like getting together online anyway. So that's been set up for that reason.
Awesome. Yeah. Neil, who I'm speaking to, he said that it was probably the greatest role of his life. Now, would you share that sentiment?
Do you know what? It's one of the easiest. You know what I was telling people, because obviously I couldn't really say anything because D&D is so famous. You guys say, well, it's a fantasy game. It's a big game, but it's a fantasy game without saying D&D. And I'd say, well, it's me if I was 7 foot tall. That's it. That's the character. And so we did a line. I mean, I don't know what order you're talking to people or who you're talking to, but Neil directed me at certain points. He's incredibly accomplished across everything to do with mocap. He's a wonderful actor as well. And yeah, a couple people said, without being offensive, you're pretty much her, which I took as a massive compliment because I think she's amazing. But it was one of those things that it was just I don't have the script printed out in order. I don't have what other people say about me, right? So I just got to make some strong choices. Hope those directors all somehow sync with each other. They know, because they have to give me that context. Normally the director just guides, but they have to give me the context of everything and where I fit in, because you don't always have the character you're speaking to, so they have to sometimes act as well. Like, props to the directors on this. So yeah, it just became and as you go along, and Neil said this, he said my writer Sarah Bayless, he said you know, she will pick up on what you do, your mannerisms, and start writing to that. So I found that Karlach more and more sarcastic, which was great. Going just like, you know, there was a lot of like over the shoulder, oh fucked if I know,
bit of dry humor as well.
A little bit of dry humor, and that was quite nice, leaning into that rather than having.
But she's also a bit of a hothead. Are you a hothead?
Well, this is the thing about being 7 foot tall. I think there's different rules, right? Like, no one can touch you. There's no fear. Like, you're easy. I think that's why she's kind of easygoing when she's out of that. I think, yeah, younger me is pretty a hothead. I mean, that's actually quite an interesting point you make, because I think that whole spell, she's gone through some incredible trauma, right? And she's not talking about it, you know, for good reason, because where would you stop if you started talking about that? And she sort of, I think in that date scene, I think you all saw, where some people were like, God, it's like a kid or something. Yeah, that's right. She's regressed. There's something that's quite childlike in the way she deals with strong emotions. That was never like,
or trying to lock them away a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
Just bury them down, push them down. That's not going to be a problem later. Just push them down when no one can see, and you know, crack jokes and like, let's smash some things and not talk about my imminent death. It's fine. It's great. Let's do it. Let's fucking do something. You know, and she's, a lot of it is, the drive is, you know, she wants to get revenge and she wants to save the city as well. That's really important to her. She's grown up with legends, you know. You'll see footage of her fangirling over Jaheira. You know, she has grown up with legends, and now she has the opportunity to be one. She has the opportunity to have a legacy before she moves on to whatever she's moving on to. But yeah, I think anger management issues is definitely, I can't wait to expect as like a wizard or a bard. It just be a barbarian. Can someone please do that? Because like we all had to do all the spells and all the different classes, so that all exists. I can be any sort of magic using that, but the cusses that she comes out with, the Shakespearean style swears, it's just hilarious. You know, it's this 7. Oh, and a rogue, she can be a rogue. I'm sure I recorded some like, I'm too big for this. My thing, I can't get into the lock.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, really good.
That's attention to detail that I love.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, that's you know, what the game is being acclaimed for, is that attention to detail and that reactivity, you know.
The in the motion capture process, I'm curious with this game, are you with other actors or are you by yourself? Do you get to play off? Who are you playing off during your 7 months?
Yeah, so I was alone in the volume. It was just me and the director in terms of that
the entire time. Wow.
So that's quite interesting. There's scenes where there are scenes where she's very much, you know, interacting with someone else, and it's me speaking, so I have to have some involvement in that. And they would show me a cinematic and I'd be like, oh, that's what she looks like, and then we'd get on with it. And so like the first time she meet, like, no, not the first time, second time, I think she meets the mechanic when he's fixing the heart and she gets to touch. That was beautiful. And yeah, that was really special, because I actually got to see what she looked like. But the stunts, which is to say the fighting and the loving, they were done by specialists in the Guildford office. I think that's really important to say, because I think people think
specialists. What do you mean specialists?
They will be in a room together playing off each other. If there's a Larian video from a while back where there's, if you pause at the right point, they have a storyboard with all the sex scene positions. And I was like, yeah, well, we didn't do that. That was the poor fuckers in Guildford had to do all that. And for the different heights, Dan. Different heights. So yeah. So you know, if you see Karlach running and stuff or having sex, and that is someone else did that. I didn't do that. Yeah, it's always nice to get the crash.
What about doing the voice acting over that? Is there voice acting over that? Is there noises?
So, so what I'm saying is, she's running and not saying anything, definitely Guildford. If she's running and saying something, combination of me and Guildford, like the way it was set up, was set up for me to stand still, and I couldn't walk around, couldn't do anything. Like, there was a very specific discipline, and I've also never done mocap before. I've had no training, nothing, which is where I think it's fair to say that the theatre training came in hugely at this point, just hugely, because that's black box. Let's pretend, make this real, and I can do all that, and wear the stupid suit, and not be self-conscious about that. That's all there, ready to go. I say any theatre actor that's thinking of doing games, please do them, because I think you will take to it like a duck to water. Oh god, and we had like movement people as well, like movement directors. That's quite unusual in games. So they work in theatre primarily, and they're there to interpret the physical language of the play, right? Otherwise the actors just sort of stand still. So with Karlach, it was Karlach. So Karlach's 7 foot tall, and I don't really know what she looks like, because either that's not been finished or NDAs or whatever.
Yeah.
And so working with them, we found that physicality. So it's things like, I'm quite small and full of energy, so I flap around, but with a 7 foot barbarian, it's going to look really weird, right?
I get it. Yeah.
And then it is the language of that. So if I've been using the same gesture, they'll go, do you want to mix it up? Or sometimes I just couldn't find the gesture. I want to tell the story without words. And that's why I'm very on this, because, we're referred to as voice actors, and it's like, not sure about that anymore. There is that physicality, and you can't put it all in the voice. It's not all in the voice. You are absolutely telling the story with the body. And what happens when you lie and you look away and all that sort of, you can't do that. You do that differently vocally if it's pure vocals. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to all the movement people, particularly Gabriel H. Donner, who works in drama schools and all sorts. So we had just had that vocabulary from the start. We just knew what each other were talking about.
Do you, when you're shooting it, so let's say there's 6 options for the player, do you record those 6 options back to back, or those different options back to back? Or do you sometimes going back to different scenes and adding it up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, both. So
both.
Yeah, these things are play tested, and they're just tested, and I guess these I don't know if you saw that, the picture from The Lion King that represented Rafiki holding up, which represented what a tree can look like. So you can see, like, you imagine the amount of time and effort, and if that's not landing, so I guess it's iteration, right? It's more like software development, so you're just doing a little bit at a time. And so so I think a good example of that would be the Blade of Frontiers, right? Will was very different in EA. He was a bit of a fraud from what I could see, and now he's not. He's like very honorable man.
Just from the play testing.
Yeah, so I think they were changing him, but of course I don't know that. I'm just getting this scene that keeps coming back. Not quite. So we went from, like, he's your little brother who you're holding, you're holding his head at a distance. So you're like, yeah, go and kick me, because that undermines him. But if we're gonna give him some status, we're gonna elevate him, then I have to be a bit frightened of him. Like, Karlach's gonna be a bit frightened of him, and she does the whole, like, look, I don't want this. Did
you push back on that? Because do you feel like that character would be scared of anything?
Well, I'd be really, really fucking annoying in the booth. It's like, if you're not going to give me the entire script and access to everyone, then I like to be really specific. I really do. Like, specificity is the soul of narrative, right? That's John Hodgman, that is. It's true, it really is, and you cannot generalize. People can hear it. I mean, that goes back to the old school of bad games voice acting, when people just said things in a very flat way to cover all eventualities. Well, we've written all eventualities, haven't we? So yeah, it would come back, and it's like, he's a bit braver this time, we're a bit more scared of him this time.
Right.
She's also been tadpoled, right, which brings her down to level 1. That's totally a thing. And she's got an overcooked engine, so she's feeling a bit shitty and weak.
True.
And we all are, but
true.
She's back in it. She's it's like she's been on a bad trip for 10 years. And how do you ever have that discussion? You're just gonna, like, lock that away, put that away somewhere else. That's never gonna come back. That's never gonna come back and bite you. Let's pretend like, okay, we were 18 when we went in, we're now 18 again, everything's fine. That's where I was with her. I was just like, that's trauma, that's regression, that's all that sort of good stuff that you can dig into and people relate to.
How did you get the role? I'm just curious. I know it's generic question number 1, but I'm really curious how you got the role and how you found the voice and the character, how long it took you to find it and start hitting your groove.
So Kirsty Gilmore, who's a director on this, I've known her for years, actually. She's just been amazing. She's had my back for years, right? And she's just been putting me up for stuff in the background, doesn't tell me, just puts me up for it.
Legend.
And this is absolute fucking legend. And she in 2020 put me up for what was Karlach. As I said earlier, she was a lot lighter. She was more of a fighter or even a rogue or something, and not the Karlach you're seeing at all, right? And I went up for that, and she was very RP. She was a lot posher and a lot more refined, and probably trained in fencing, you know. And looking back at that script was, you know, not as fully formed, which totally makes sense. So I didn't get that, is the story. I didn't get that. Someone else got that. And then they'd come back with like small roles, NPC kind of roles, but really small. And I just thought, I know enough about games that if I go in and I've got a distinctive voice, I'm not coming back. I can't come back. Like, I've done my thing, right? So that's at least me. I might be completely wrong, but I know that.
No. That's interesting. So you declined that?
I declined.
Wow.
You know, like a small. I mean, we're talking like 4 hours a session or 2 hour session. It's an NPC who goes like, it's over there, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, additional voices. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I think I'm ready to do something a bit. I'll just chill because this is. I didn't know what it was. It was clearly fantasy. I thought, oh right. So what they've done is they've slightly changed the names of all these races so they don't get sued by Wizards of the Coast, because this is clearly Dungeons and Dragons, but they've changed. You know, I didn't quite click for me what it was. But I knew there was a Dungeons and Dragons game being made. Anyway, blah blah blah. Didn't get it. Moved on with my life. Then I made a game called the Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, which really took. I mean, it just took.
Which
off.
Everyone should play. Give it a crack.
Everyone should play. And I'm obviously very different in that. So again, that what I'm about to say, like it shows people's trust in the actor and what they can do, because she's a very different character. I'm sure you'll agree, from Karlach. So
you wouldn't even say it's the same person. Wouldn't say it was.
I'd like to say it's a different person.
No, well, you wouldn't know. I don't think people would know. Honestly,
that's pretty cool, right? I mean, what a great
it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
No, it is. Thank you. And if this was filmed, I wouldn't get the opportunity to play such a breadth of roles. So I'm always very grateful for that career in audio and games, because was my oyster and it's been fantastic. But I did that, and it was just before the takeover of Twitter, so I could see in order what people were saying on Twitter. And there were a couple of people just kept saying how much they loved it and the voice acted brilliant. And I just started clicking into like, who are these people? And one of them was Michael Dowse, who was the head of publishing at Larian. So what I did was I thought, there's an open goal. And I slid into his DMs and I said, wow, clearly you're a man of culture. If there's an opportunity to audition for a significant role in this, could I please have the opportunity? And the audition was set up in
unbelievable
days. Wow. So I went back in and went in knowing that it's Baldur's Gate 3, which gave me a level of confidence that I didn't have before, or don't normally have going into AAA game auditions. I knew what
it was.
Good on
you, man. That is
man. Awesome. Like, opportunity, right? You, like, when opportunity knocks, like, just go. It just felt like this very ton. And like, what's he gonna do? Block me? Okay, that's the worst situation. That's the worst situation. I'll just say no. Or it's sorry, it's been cast, you know. But so then Pitstop said, oh, actually, we've been trying to contact Sam to audition for Karlach, something like that. And it all sort of came together. And then it was like, can you get on with it, please? Like, we need to move now. So it all happened very happily. But there was a difference going in with that endorsement. Any like actor who's starting out or trying, like, it's so important to have that person on the inside who is going to say, actually, you know, from Kirsty to Michael, like, I trust this person, they're going to do a good job. So to answer the question, which I've remembered, you know what they said to me? They were like, just be you, just instinct, go with what you think. And I thought, okay, I'll do a 7-foot version of me in you know, obviously with the circumstances of this fantasy person. So,
and that's,
you know,
the voice we hear. That the first voice you came out,
well,
that was, you know,
She's
basically
a bit more, you know, London. There had to be, okay, if we're getting specifics, I'm from London, I trained, and they try and kick that accent out of you, right? So my accent isn't quite, so she probably sounds a bit more like me if I hadn't trained. To be honest, so, you know, like, that's me, right, let's do me. It's very specific. But I didn't want it to be too London, because that just makes it contemporary. Then you've also got the fact that goblins have a really London, like a Cockney accent. And I was like, let's not make her
Yeah.
Let's not make her a goblin. So there was all that sort of thing. And I'm thinking like Americans as well. Sometimes if you too many glottal stops and like they can't hear it. And I'm thinking about like I'm an overthinker. I think about these things. But I'm running it past people and we're finding it. But there is this sort of this sort of timbre of voice. There's this voice. And then I think very early on when she confronts Anders and she goes full on metal raw. I think that's how she spoke in Hell. I don't think she spoke very often in Hell, but I think, going into that sort of voice, I'm gonna kill you. She's probably not in Baldur's Gate. We're gonna drop that. We're gonna forget that happened. We're gonna go back to how we were. So that's where that light voice comes from as well.
Why do all goblins sound like this? Come over here.
So we know they're goblins. I have no idea, but you know what? I bloody love them because I thought, wow, that's Ray Winston over here. That's Kathy Burke over there. I was like, I don't know who these actors are. But they did such a fucking great job on them. They're so funny.
It is.
Because I've obviously had DMs, one DM doing all the goblins. I've actually hit different humans doing the like coming to life. Oh, I think they're wonderful.
Yeah. So what was the first day on set like for you? Were you nervous?
Right, get in the suit, stand over there, not like that, then right, okay, go. There was no like intro.
They don't even give you any there's no training. You were just in the deep end.
I mean, to be fair, I think for the smaller roles, you're going to do that, right? Because you've got the actor for 2 hours. It's going to take 20 minutes to 30 minutes to suit up, and you just got to get them. And then there's some people, and again, why I still using the term voice actor as well, is that some people are just voice actors, and they'll freeze. They don't know what this way did a training. So So then they're doing mocap, and like that must be really terrifying. But for me, it was like getting it right. I know these things cost a lot of money, but then I also thought, well, I haven't been trained. So I worked a lot with movement directors. It was just to get the broadness of her. Yeah. Everything had like there. So there was a lot of sort of this sort of stuff going on at the beginning. It was quite monotonous. But I think it was like meeting the player for the first time. It was recruiting Karlach. I think that's what we did, which I think is a good place to start. What
scene got you into the groove and then you're like, I'm off to the races now?
I think I really dialed into the trauma. I can totally understand someone that's been, we can say imprisoned wrongly or press ganged for 10 years and just wanting to forget that, wanting to get, we've had a 2-year period that a lot of us just want to forget and move on with and never talk about again, so you expand on this very, obviously very dramatic what she's been through, but actually it was finding some of the joy and marrying that up with that trauma, right? And just going, I am alive, I'm here. This is good, this is okay. We don't have to keep reflecting on all this stuff. We don't have to think about the future. And there's a whole thing, and I don't know if it's made it into the game, where she talks about grass. It's a whole monologue. She talks
I really hope that's in the game.
I've missed it, like green things. And there's all this funny stuff. We did the Underdark and like, really grim places. And she goes, oh my God, it's so massive. I love it. It's not
true.
Hell.
It's true. You would be thinking
not
that.
Hell.
But it's great writing. You would be thinking that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, there's a really big one I got to do, which was in terms of an act, it was a monologue. Like sometimes you're doing it line by line and out of order, and you hope they stitch it together nicely. But then sometimes they go, this one goes with this one, and with this one, and with it. And I go, this is a monologue. Give me a minute to read it. Just give me a minute to read it, and then we'll give it a go. And there's a real dark night of the soul for her. Let's just say she gets what she wants, but she's not satisfied, and it's dealing with that feeling. You get what you want, but you're not fulfilled. And how do you move on with your life? And
are there spoilers? Are there scenes where we get to see her reflecting on that trauma or coming to terms with it or anything like that?
Yeah. So I think again there's a stereotypical person who served in war and never tells their family. They never talk about it with their family. They might get together their buddies and talk about it and have their groups, but they'll never. So with her, it's you have to get to know her. You have to get to know her, and you don't have to romance her. You can be her buddy, and she'll start opening up to you. There's a very meta line in that first scene with Anders when she's getting revenge on guys. I love that
line. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and she's just like, she said something about like this early in the game.
This early. Come on.
We'll save the war stories for later. She's thrilled. She's like, let's just literally get out of danger, and then we'll sit around the campfire and trade stories. And I think she'd be great if she was like, if she could get back to Baldur's Gate, just get in a tavern. She wouldn't have to pay for a drink ever again, and she'd just tell stories about like all the shit she got up to in Hell.
Were there any parts where you got emotional? Did you have to
Oh
get
yeah,
emotional?
very, very. And it's funny because I don't cry easily, and I certainly can't cry on cue. Right, that was always a
Yeah, I know people
thing.
struggle with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always struggle with it. Funny enough, because I think there is like a technique, but I haven't learned it. I haven't gone and learned
Yeah.
it, but it certainly doesn't come easy. But because I knew her background, and we're just throwing it away, and isn't this fun? And let's smash some heads in, and I just was never getting to that. And then when we did get to that scene, it was very well placed. It just all came out. It just, because I had two or three takes to really nail it, and it just all came out. And I just hoped they could hear everything I was saying, because you start to cry and it goes,
So
and
you
you're not so.
fully cried.
Oh yeah. I
Wow.
had all that. It was built, months of just sitting on that, because I don't think we need to know day to day what happened over 10 years, but it was fucking shit. It's the worst. I thought of, like, imagine like you were put in a high security men's prison in California, like as a woman, like you've just been put in there, and you're big, you're 7 foot, right? You get to be 7 foot, but you are watching your back, right, every day. Like, it's survival, it's pure survival, and the person you are there is not the person you're on the inside, on the outside. And maybe that's the way you
Wow.
accept. Of course, she doesn't know if she's getting out. It is a real, and I don't have to think about that very long to already start feeling emotional about that. So what I did is, like her, bury that down, just tamp that down, don't think about it. So when it does, it volcanoes out of you.
Was that cathartic for you? Were you, after that, you shot that scene, how did you feel?
Yeah, so, like, I mean, part of the reason I got into acting in the first place, as well as telling a story in a way that affected me, I found it very cathartic. I was, like, originally from a Catholic background, sort of known for being repressed, so keeping secrets, that sort of thing. Just brush it under the carpet. Let's not damage a man's reputation, that sort of thing. So it was very, relatable in terms of and cathartic. But in terms of spoilers, we're going to go in spoiler territory
Yeah, just do it. Come on.
now. Hit
Yeah,
the time code.
come on.
Right. So Gortash, Gortash sold her into hell. He's the guy, and he's running Baldur's Gate. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And now we're gonna
Wow.
go meet him, and we're gonna buddy up with him. And I'll leave
Yeah.
some mystery as to how that goes when she meets him. But she does get to watch him die.
Wow.
And she doesn't feel any better about anything, because there's all the shit going on with the tadpole and the end of the world and all that. And it becomes, what is the point of why did I do 10 years in hell to come out to do this
Yeah.
and feel nothing and die, and I'm nothing, and I haven't done anything with my life. And I was, she was probably taken, I'd say 18. So she's not had a life. It is fucking horrible to think about. And now she's going to go, and it means nothing. And so that just all came out, and I got very emotional, and hopefully it's good, and hopefully it affects people. And yeah, she's a tragic hero. That's the big spoiler. Tragic hero.
Yeah.
That's
I
how,
mean,
yeah, she'll brush it off and she'll laugh, but actually that's who she is underneath.
yeah,
And you
is
can't
she,
write
you
that
would
all the
say
time.
she's more a hero than an anti-hero, or wouldn't you? You would say
Yeah,
yeah.
because she is doing, it's not like she's doing stuff which affects her and just happens to benefit other people. She's doing things that benefit other people and may or may not benefit her. So that's pretty heroic. And she wants her life to mean something. She gets a short time on this planet, and she wants that to mean something. So that's quite hard.
Is
That's
that
hard. I thought, having a terminal illness or something at a young age, and
definitely?
go, I'm gonna, and again, you try and think of things that you can relate to. You start thinking, oh well, well, she's a tiefling, and what that means. You forget it. You've got to absolutely make that relatable.
Do you think you could get to that place again easier now that you've done it once before, or would it be harder? Do you think?
I think it would be harder. I think what I just said to you was natural. It was real. And what's been lovely is about, I walked in and they were like, just be you. I thought, fantastic, what a gift. Because I thought, oh, I've got to do this for 30 hours. 240.
Little did you know.
30. Yeah, I've got to do this for about 30 hours. I mean, I did once about 12 hours, right? In an accident.
Oh,
30
really?
hours is a lot. 30 hours is a lot of time to not be doing. So just, Sam, just do your own accent, do just own instinct, whatever. And it was 240 hours. So I feel I chose wisely there. But as I said, that was, that was real, and that was real not getting to that moment, knowing it was coming at some point, because, I got enough of the script to know that about her. But like her, never dwelling on it, never dwell on it. And then when it actually, the reality of the words, because you know how straight talking she is, it is facts, and it is unchangeable, and it doesn't matter that she's good. That's the sad thing, is it doesn't matter that she's a good person. It doesn't mean good stuff will happen to her.
That's a reality of
That's
life
real.
sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's real. Yeah, that's real, and that's relatable.
yeah. I find this game has got a lot of relatable themes. What was it like working with Neil? I'm curious, and some of the other voice directors. What sort of advice would they give you that you found helpful? Because I've heard there's been directors that aren't so good at giving advice. I'm just curious, what's the difference between a bad and a good voice director, I guess? Or is it maybe they're not? Are they voice directors? Is that the official title, or is there another? Are they just straight up
they were down as directors. They were directors.
Yeah, they're just directors.
You got movement as well, and it is. I mean, I was thinking about why that is, why I'm so stuck on it, but it really is like, if I do Sandman for Audible, it's 100% my voice, right? It has to be, because that's all I've got. If it's this, you've got the body, you've got the breath. I don't have to channel. I will act different. I noticed I did it on the party banter. I would approach that in a different way, because you've got to get it from my voice. You can't get, so you get like, I did, some really high profile audio, and you get film actors in and they're flat because they're acting with their face and their thoughts, and you're going, yeah, babe, that's great, but I need you to do it in a non-hammy way as well. You don't want it to be, shouty or whatever, or over labored. But
I feel like people do that. They go too large sometimes in games.
I think the art of voice acting is really underrated, and people think they can phone it in. And it's it's certainly the most exposing. It's really exposing. Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, but to answer the question about a good director and lovely Neil, well, Neil just came bounding up to me on day one. Didn't know who the fuck I was. Didn't matter. He just came up to me, made himself known, said welcome, or just really led by example. Yeah. I mean, the answer is empathy. The answer is empathy, a good director, because we are talking about, again, moving the recipient, whether that's the player or the audience, wherever we're moving them. They're not in front of us. You really have to work well with your team. And as I said, it's a team of people as well, all making you look good. So you've got to get on well with them. It's a hard road playing life as the Dark Urge, though, right? That's a lonely life. You might be the 1% to make it, but that's quite a gamble to make if you're just going to be an asshole on set, But he just led by example, and I found that because it's slightly closer to filming, you've literally got cameras on you, and they call you the talent, which we all hate. I think we all hate. I don't like it, but that's already by insinuation. There's a pressure, and I thought, well, if they're going to put me on the pedestal, I'll take that challenge, and I'll make sure people get breaks on time, and aren't dancing around me so much. And that really good example of empathy and warmth and welcoming. And so when new people came on board, whether they were crew or new actors, making them feel welcome, coming in with a good energy. And I think just overall, it was fucking great vibes in there. Like, we had some, by the time I entered, it was some real time pressure. Yeah, and they were always, mocap suits drying on the side, freshly laundered, ready to go again. It could be quite hectic. And before you know it, if you're not careful, you're just pumping people in and out of the system, and there's no connection. And I think, particularly with this game, where we are saying, look, you can make any choice and there are consequences, and it doesn't just peter out, it has a real meaning to it. I think you have to bear that in mind. So I think Neil was a great way to, as a gateway to the project, to teach me how to behave and what's expected of me. And I think we all have to come up to that level, but particularly when you have that privilege all of a sudden, don't shit on people below you, don't pull the ladder up. As I said, we're a team. I won't accept anything.
Essentially, instead of having a director who thinks he's here, we're here. We're both here. Yeah, is that
right? I think so. And I think the best directors, and I'm talking about film and TV, where I know that world more, they are on that level, and it's all a bit Jedi monk shit, right? They're not. They are much better than you, but they make you feel that it's horizontal. I think that's right. Healthy, because it's psychological safety, isn't it? That's a known it's a known phenomenon that people don't need to have certain backgrounds in common, and that it's feeling safe with each other to say what they want without consequences. I think that's really important.
Have you always felt like that, during over the years, or have you had times where you haven't quite felt like that?
Oh, some big theatre stuff, you're treading on eggshells the whole time. I don't like
Really?
it. Oh yeah. And then you hear that so and so is abusive, and you're like, yeah, we all knew. We couldn't say. The occasional story comes out. And I just mean I don't mean like in a Weinstein way. It just means just makes it miserable for everybody else, and all that shit. And it's like, yeah, people are terrified. There's no recourse and that. And there is. I quite enjoy the hierarchy of actually director gets last say. I certainly don't want to be that arsehole actor. You go, no, I thought take 2 was better, and you will be. Why? That is not my job. My job is to make an offering, and whether you like it or not, that's up to you. But
at least take in your opinion.
Of course, but actually, my opinion is my performance. It's not. I would make the opinion known before. Let's put it that way. We come to an agreement. And then we do it.
Okay.
Or I might, very occasionally go, look, can I just try? Because they're so sweet. I'll go, can I try one more? And I'll do it. And they'll go, yeah. And I go, that's not making it in. Okay. And very occasionally they'll be like, oh right, yeah, I see where you're going. Let's explore that. But if you're terrified of directing, again, you're going to get I think you're going to get a very bland performance, and everyone's miserable. Why? We've got such weird conditions already. Why make ourselves miserable on top of it?
Yeah. So did you watch that showcase they did, and they showed a fair bit of that romance scene with you? And I'm just curious how have you found watching yourself back? How has that process been for you?
Yeah, so I watched all the panels from hell because I'm a horrible nerd, but I also like to really, as I said with Hobbs Barrow, I delved into what do other people say about me? What is this world I'm in? So
even if it's bad, you're willing to take criticism. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. As I said, I make an offering, and so many people. I can always blame the director. They're not listening. If it's terrible, obviously blame the director and literally everyone else.
If it's good, it's great. You.
It's just me. Yeah, I was on my own. Yeah, I had to really fight to get that. Yeah, so I did watch Panel from Hell, and everything was always a surprise. They don't warn you that they're showing anything. And I thought they moved on actually because
you'd never seen that. Sorry to cut you off. You'd never seen that footage before, right? Finalized.
No, and Neil directed me on that. Neil directed that, and he also directed Berserk. So, props to Neil. Iconic scenes that Neil got to direct there.
Wow. he hit gold.
He really did. So when we did it, and they again, because it was an unusual one, I was sitting down, but I was talking, so I had to do the mocap. We had a little table and everything, and then they showed me what it would look like, and it was Astarion, and I thought, oh, that is wonderful. I think Astarion and Karlach together would just be hilarious. So we were on our own little date with him doing the direction, and we knew it was whimsical, and we just went, fuck it, because we know there's the other end of the romance, that's happening. There's all that. It's Minthara, that's been out there for a while. So for one, again, have the breadth of what's possible. No, so I didn't know. What happened is there was a community update that announced Karlach. It announced that there was another origin, and I was like, they've moved on so fucking quick. That's it, I'm done. They showed a new pic, and people went, why isn't she scarred? And they moved on. And I thought, I'll watch Panel from Hell from a bit, I suppose, and I did. I was happily delighted. I'm used to hearing my own voice back. It's still weird, but it's okay. It's not as bad as watching myself back on film. That is horrific. I can't do it. But
why are you used to it again?
I've just done a lot of audio. I've done a lot of audio, and I listen.
Right.
I just love hearing it as a listener. I just love hearing how it comes out. And again, a lot of the time we record in isolation, and then it's like a year when it comes out, and you forget that you recorded it in isolation because they've done such a great job. So again, I just love the craftsmanship of that. So,
but the film side, you cringe.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I think that's normal.
A lot of people said that.
Yeah, because you're seeing, you don't experience yourself in that way. You're not thinking about how you come up, and now you're there again, nowhere to hide. You're like, bloody hell, is that what I do? All of that. You're watching. You're zooming into the bits of yourself, and it's no good for anyone, doesn't? Yeah. So it was nice that Karlach is basically a 7-foot supermodel. That was nice to look at. I was going, that's fine. But what was really cool was to see. It sounds really wanky, but her breath, her movement, and her breath. Because I was like, shit, that's me. That's me. I did that.
I understand when you say movement. But what do you mean by breath? What do you mean by that?
Literally, the tracking of her breathing. in her chest and
Really?
her body. You know, that's what I'm focusing on, and it's alive. You know, and animation have done a great job, because again, I think what I'm doing is making an offer. They don't have to do what I did. You know, again, spend a lot of money getting movement people to, but they don't have to use any of that stuff. You know, sometimes they don't, and that's fine, because it's about what works for the scene. I'm just a puzzle piece. Do you know what I mean? Which is why I talk about that flatness. Yeah, so it was delightful, and there were whoops of joy. And then I also thought, oh, is that the scene you want to introduce her by? Because you've just said she's this badass and all, and then you've shown that, and I was like, oh shit. And then I had to just be feral for a couple of weeks until I saw the opening when you first meet her, whether it's with Will or not, and she's just a fucking badass. I was like, oh, thank God, it's all right. And then there's a scene with Anders where she goes, I think we get a glimpse of what she might have been like under Zariel, where she just goes full on.
Is that the one where you rage?
Yeah, the first time. And it's Anders is sick to, like, his people, the paladins of Tyr, and they're not. And if you play paladin, you get an inkling that they're lying. But I think otherwise they're pretty convincing. They're actually pretty convincing. And in EA, you couldn't. She was wounded, and she's like, "Can you help me?" In this, like, again, 7-foot badass. She's like, "Well, there's lots of them, one of me, so because I'm a badass. Help me out." And she gets to confront him. And she gets, and this is very early on in the game with her. And she gets to confront him, and she's like, "I'm never going back."
Yeah.
And you see that for the and she's actually quite dangerous. And she says, there's a bit where she gets, "Get out of the room." And you think, oh, I've got time. You haven't got time. She kill you. Like, people have been pissed off that she's been TPKing like over and over again. Like, no, you have to either put some sort of magic on yourselves or get the fuck out of there, because she's literally running up and down, smashing the room. And I was like, oh yeah, that's all right. That's all right. And they could have shown that Karlach, but they showed the really sweet one, which is a really specific, romance path to get to. It's not default. None of these things that they showed are default. They're very specific.
Yeah, a lot of people will probably never see that, eh? That's a possibility with games
that
like
was
this,
like
right?
kind of, I was like, oh, I've been sort of caught with my pants down, as Karlach. I'm like, Karlach wouldn't want people to see her like that. Gee, it says,
well, yeah, you're right.
Got around a bit. She's got a reputation.
Yeah, it's a private
don't go
moment.
on dates. It's really private. It's really private. It's like the most intimate in a way, because I've seen already. There's footage of people, and the first night she's like, how's about it? So there's an option where you don't go on cute dates. There's that option, and that's more like old Karlach, because that's what she said she used to do.
Yeah. So what would you say your most proud moment was on this?
I think it was just like feeling part of a really fucking hardcore team. It really is. I really believe in that. Like, some of the Mocap engineers are so young. They're straight out of uni. They're in their early 20s,
Good on them.
So good. And they are so good, and I have so much respect for them. And they were kind enough to invite me to dinner a few times, and I was obviously not horrible enough to not invite back. So that was good. And I felt I had a bond with them, and that we were making, regardless of how it was received or whatever, like, we'd made something decent. As I said, that's my sphere of control, right? Is not being an arse, and doing a fucking good job, or as good as I can. And making it a pleasant place to work, So I felt I felt really proud of that, and that was relatively early on, and that was great.
So is that sad when it's all said and done? What's your emotions like when it was?
There's no wrap party. There's no, like, when we're finishing at different points, and then they'll go, oh, actually, we've got some retakes or whatever. So it doesn't.
You don't know when. It
peters out, which is a shame, I think.
Yeah, I know. There's no real. This is the end day in gaming, really, and for actors.
No, there's no big wrap, like you would on a film or whatever. So I think that's I mean, and the same with indie, you go and you do your bit and you're done. But I've been on it so long, and same with the others. But we've got our own WhatsApp group.
Oh, that's good.
There's a scoop. All the companions in the WhatsApp group.
So you surely J.K. Simmons isn't in the WhatsApp group.
He's not a companion.
Oh, okay. Right, companions.
Yeah,
only.
we actually didn't invite him.
A private club of only.
Sorry, JK, but it's a private club for companions. But it's great because, it is I would love to educate the actors that were there and tell them how big this thing is, and because you get people who are like, oh, I just do the odd game, and you're like, this is massive. Do you know what game you don't know what game you're in? Okay, here's the poster for the game. This is the game you're in. Write that down, because a lot of people, no one's gonna. There's hundreds of actors in a lot of these big games. It's standard practice. Again, you're a freelancer. You come in, you do your job, you get out. you probably don't know what game you're in. And then there's the horror stories that, you know, I found out when my trailer was played at GDC that I was the lead character in this AAA. Everyone has a story like that, and that's horrifying. So I was just a little bastard that I'd go around and go, by the way. I think I've always worked it out eventually. I've always worked it out.
Yeah, but you're one of the smart ones. You're one of the smart
Start
ones.
asking around, is there a game in this genre that kind of looks like that?
They can't get anything by you. I can already tell.
I don't want to make it a challenge. Bloody hell, though. I'd be too proud. But, you know, I've got mates where I've had to go, you know, you are a leading role in this. So just, you know, make sure your agent sort of stays in touch with them and make sure you get all the details when it comes out, because people just don't know what they're in. And I think that's a real shit. So, like, the example I make is, like, you know, I auditioned for a Marvel film for, like, one-liner, cop with a gun, you know, stop or I'll shoot. Yeah. But I know what film I'm in. I've signed the NDA and I know what film I'm in.
Yeah.
And I haven't even got the role, and I know what film I'm in. Like, why is that different for games? So, yeah, without going down that old path, I'll just put that out there. You get better performances in the end. Like I said with the audition, the fact that I knew what this game was and I knew where that character fit in. I went and found someone, bless them, I think it was Spell and Shield, did a video on, like, what's the Blood Wars and where does Karlach fit in? And I watched 8 minutes of that and I went, right, I know who she is now.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of that, isn't it?
I think that's crazy that we're feeding off each other. We've got wild speculation, and then the actors are like, oh, this is what I'm doing, right? Okay. But when I got the role and heard Blood Wars, and I'm not deep into it enough to know all that lore. Just went and watched it and went, okay, now I know who I am.
I'm pretty sure I've done lore videos, and then the actor's spoken to me, like, and played back what I said in a lore video.
Yeah, maybe that's the tip. The big tip I give the actors is, like, find out what the game is, watch what all the specialists have said about it. It'll save you a lot of time in the booth.
Hey, have you played this game yet?
Alas, I am a PS5 user.
Oh, okay.
But as a performer,
you're waiting.
Obviously, yeah, I'm waiting. But as a performer, obviously I want to see how it's come out. But actually, what I am doing, I've noticed what I'm doing is I'm watching the Karlach, because I just want to know how she's come out. And I'm not watching other characters' journeys yet. I don't actually really want to know.
You selfish bastard. No.
Yeah, that's right. I own it completely.
So you're typing in, Carl, any videos yours just to see the new scenes? Yeah. I would. Yeah, I
just want to see the cinematic.
Yeah. The same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's all right. It's come out all right, I suppose. And then, like, yeah, I was watching a few streamers play. But that game is their game. It's not my, you know, that sounds really terrible. It's their version. And if I'm dipping in, but yeah, she fights like a hard fucker. So I'm really pleased about that. That's good. Party banter's hilarious. So I'm glad that, because again, it's isolated and done months apart, and it's got a different tone to it, as I said, because it's pure voice acting. It's a different delivery. I've got to put more into that. It's obviously not going to come out of the body. So just seeing how that all fits together, that's really fun. That's a really fun part. But yeah, I do actually want to experience it as a player and see what I choose and what happens. But I'll play. I love how people go in and go, oh, I'm going to romance this one. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to see what happens. Hopefully there's a spot with.
You're not going to go in with I'm going to do this. You're just going to wing it. Yeah.
Chaotic good, mate. try and do good. If people die as a result, sorry.
So you don't know what class, you don't know what.
Oh no, I'm going as Bob. I'm going to go as
Karlach. Yeah.
True actor mode, right? Just pure. She won't speak much as an origin, right? So it's not too self-indulgent, and I won't be romancing myself, right? So there's that. I might try and Captain Kirk it and just get through everyone. I'm not sure they'll let me, but I did manage to do that in Mass Effect 2. It would piss them off, but there wasn't enough options recorded for there to be real consequences. But I managed to sleep with the entire crew.
I think I did the same thing. Oh man, I'm ashamed to say.
It's got to be done. It's my shot, baby.
That's it. And so as we wrap up here, you much of a gamer? You said you played a bit of Mass Effect. What have you played on the PS5? Is there anything that you've been playing recently? Or you've probably been. How can you play when you're fucking getting home at 10 p.m. at night? I mean,
right. So what have I played. I was playing Returnal quite a lot. I know Jane Perry. And I really want to get to a storyline, but it's so hard. And I just hear her die a lot and it's horrible. But God, it's really satisfying. I love it. And yeah, I think my tolerance for that pain is quite high. I've discovered I'm a real masochist. The other one is a Ghost of Tsushima. I went to Japan during making this, and I really miss Japan. So
Yeah, I saw you in Japan. I'm so
yeah.
jealous. I want to get down there. I've
Have you
never
not been?
been.
You have to
No,
go.
I'm
You
thinking
have
of
to
going
go.
this January. Yeah,
Do
next
it.
year.
Just do
Yeah.
it. You'll love it. It's such like a, for me anyway,
When
culture
did you
shock.
go?
So I went in April
Of this year?
2023. Yeah. Yeah, because I was told, right? I was told, right, you're gonna 30 hours, right? Not 240, 30 hours, and you will be done by February. Okay. That's good because I've already booked the trip ages ago, obviously before December. But I knew I was gonna do this. Great, it all fit in. So yeah. Chaotic good, as I said.
How long were you over there? Were you by yourself? Were you with?
Just 3 weeks with my partner, and
Yeah,
we did it for a travel agency, and they, as you can imagine, we did all the train stuff, and so they did all the tickets for us and all
beautiful.
the hotels, and it was worth it. I mean, absolute fortune, but it was something again. I was just sitting on during lockdown. I was like,
Had you been
and
before? Or was this your first
no,
time?
I've never been. I've never been. I think the furthest I've been. I'm just going up. It's always UK and EU and
Yeah.
America. Is about as far out of that comfort zone I've been. So I've never been out of the West before.
And the 3 weeks was good? Good amount of time? Yeah.
I mean, I could stay there forever.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just so different. And I also knew people that had emigrated, and I knew people from who studied in London, who were Japanese, studied in London, and so we had a big old catch up.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah, it was really
cool.
nice. Good
That's
people. Yeah, I saw them in daylight. It was weird.
cool. Is there anything you wanted to shout out, or is there anything you wanted to say to the fans of Baldur's Gate 3 that have tuned in today?
I love all the good feedback. So I love the art. I love the artwork that our characters have
Oh,
enjoyed. And of course,
yeah.
people fell in love with Karlach's character model. So I was very much on how is she coming across. And now, of course, now they're hearing me act, I'm like backing off from opinion. That's too scary. But I love the idea that performance might change the perception of who she is. I just love seeing the art. I can't draw to save my life, so I really respect the time and effort people put into that particularly. But yeah, I think it's not unfair to say that the fans have made this game, like they really have, and Larian have really listened and put in that feedback. I think there's that real trust relationship between the two, and I think it's just gorgeous to see it on this scale. So just keep on trucking, kids, because we love it. And it said we as a performer, you love that back and forth. I loved watching people playing Hobbs Barrow, because it's the closest I'll get to an audience, even if they hate it, even if they're just sitting there blank and hating it. That is valid. It's it's not, again, it's my job to offer, it's to tell the story. It's not to be thought of as wonderful, although that's always good, but that's not my, it's to make that offering. I find it cathartic enough. So the fact that people have really taken it into their hearts, and the fact that Larian have come up to the levels of thirstiness of the audience, because it took me a couple of days to go, no, there's that scene that's actually worse than the bear. Oh yeah. Wait till they find that bit.
Hold on. There's a scene worse than the bear.
There are options you can take that maybe even I wouldn't take.
With?
Because someone's gone, what if we do that? And then they say yes.
With
say yes.
who?
What at the end? Are you're recording? No. This has to be absolutely, because I think once that's out, like people are gonna go, the actual.
Okay.
But it's their own fault. If you start asking to literally romance everything, this is what happens.
Oh, now I'm so intrigued. I'm really intrigued.
We can talk off camera if you like. That's absolutely
that's so good. What do you hope people take away from your performance and the character?
I mean, personally, as an actor, I hope people realize that how versatile I am, because I think I have played a range of very different people, whether it's, I mean, they're all pretty much fantasy, but within these different genres of that high fantasy to horror, and everything in between, to things set in space, that I want to work more, essentially, is that would be nice. That'd be a nice, to be like a,
It's always nice to be employed.
please give them more work. That's good. We like that. Yeah, I hope they're moved. I hope they I mean, I've been set up really nicely. The writing was incredible. What a gift of a role. Do you know what I mean? You know, what an opportunity. So I hope I've done her proud. But I think she's well written enough. I'm happy for her to go and do her thing.
And I also and Larian have done a great job. Like, we got to give them props, and the devs and everyone. I mean, it's unbelievable what they've done. They've really listened, as you said, and I respect that I believe Neil said that, you know, adding that non-binary option took a lot of actual, you know, that costs a lot of money. I believe he said something like that. Like, it wasn't just something you could just, you know, half-ass.
Yeah. So there was, I think a good example of that is everyone will address you in it as male, female, or non-binary. So you've got to record every person who could possibly gender you. You have to maybe find that actor again and get them in. And I think that might be what he's talking about. Because by the time it was it was he, she there, right? It was bam, 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 and it was great. And I think there's a bit where in the panel for male where they showed the meeting the friend in the street, and I'm in a relationship with the dark edge, because you know why not? He's gorgeous. And I said, "You're gorgeous," and I did like, "Isn't she gorgeous? And aren't they gorgeous?" And it's all there, and it's all in the programming. It's all ready to go. And if that it helps the immersion, then bring it on.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And we can follow you on Twitter. That's it. Anything else?
I'm thinking about things.
Well, let me know. You let me know.
Yeah. I'm on Twitch, but I'm not broadcasting. I'll probably put it up on Twitter if I am. I'll probably do the mass migration to whatever it is if and when Twitter/X falls over. But I don't know what that is yet. So, you know.
Oh, sorry, it's not Twitter, it's X now.
It's X. Forgot. I'm not calling it X.
Shit.
I'm not calling it X.
I don't want to call it X.
Fuck him.
Be honest.
Yeah.
You now, but as we end here, is it possible that we can hear Karlach one more time? Can she say something to Dan to wrap this one up?
Got to think like what sort of Karlach you want. There's many different Karlachs.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Which Karlach do I want? I mean, look, whatever one you're willing to give us, I'm happy with, because I like all versions of you, Samantha.
Okay. I was looking for a friend. Maybe that could be you. Is an actual line that I remember doing. I think I'm just going to go around telling kids to clean their teeth and go to bed at the right time. I'm up for that. Saturday, you know, that real appeal with the swearing.
Well, thank you so much, Sam, and we will do this again, I'm sure, very, very soon.
Thank you.